Hey listeners, it's time for another episode of What the Perf podcast. This is your host Mrinal along with your co-host Nitesh.
Hello, listeners. Welcome back to another illuminating episode of What the Perf podcast. We have got a ton of feedback about our last two episodes. I really want to thank everyone who listened and shared such honest feedback.
Yeah, definitely. Keep the feedback coming listeners. Thank you so much. So without any further ado, let's get started with this episode. Let's see what Nitesh has in the news for us.
This week, I have three news items. In the first one, major US tech companies are taking keen interest in partnering with Reliance's tech arm, Jio. Facebook has already invested in Jio for 9.9% stake as well as Intel. Google is also in talks with Reliance for a 7.7% in stake and partnership. Recently, Amazon has also shown interest in partnering with Reliance Retail.
That's why the everyday jump in Reliance stock price, right Nitesh?
Yes, Mrinal, it is touching new highs every day.
Yes.
In the second news item, Garmin, that is a smartwatch and wearable maker, has shut down several of its services on July 23rd to deal with a ransomware attack that has encrypted in its internal network and some production systems. It resulted in disruption across multiple services provided by Garmin. As of today, many Garmin services are still down.
I think Garmin mostly caters to US market. They have their map devices, the ones that are used in the navigation, basically navigation devices used in cars and all that. I
Right.
think they also make, wearables and smartwatches for sport people. I did check out a few on Amazon. They are very expensive. Luckily, I don't have one. Okay, let's continue.
In the third news item, Neotis joins hands with Tech Mahindra to assure performance and scalability of applications during COVID pandemic. Neotis is well known for the performance testing tool NeoLoad. The COVID pandemic has facilitated increased cooperation between service providers like Tech Mahindra and tool vendors like Neotis. It will enable Tech Mahindra to load test applications of clients in essential sectors such as healthcare and e-commerce.
Neotis has been really active in performance circles recently. I see every day on LinkedIn. They share a lot of blog posts, and they do something called as Neotis PAC. Nitish, it's called Performance Advisory Council. They invite
Okay.
a lot of performance professionals. They discuss about the latest trends in performance world. Do check it out when you have time.
So that was all from the news this week. Now, in the last episode, we understood what is performance testing in software development. Now let's see, why do we need performance testing?
Sure, I'll get started. The goal of performance testing is to eliminate performance bottlenecks.
What happened to you, Mrinal?
It's always confusing and frustrating when something is slow, right, Nitesh?
Yeah, always.
There you go. This is why you need performance testing. On a serious note, though, in your highly digitized world, if you are an online business, you obviously have customers who are accustomed to getting everything instantly. So if your website is slow, you risk frustrating your customer and may lose her if you don't do anything about the slowness.
Unless you are IRCTC in 2015s.
IRCTC has improved a lot, I would say, especially after they, went public. Anyways, moving ahead, if you look at it, Nitesh, it's not only about user experience. There are mission critical systems that need to function with high levels of performance. If I take few examples, stockbrokers, banking, and medical systems are a few.
Yeah, performance testing uncovers what needs to be improved before the product goes to market. It also determines whether our application meets speed, scalability, and stability requirements under expected workloads. Let's look into these aspects in detail one by one. First one is improvement in page speed and page load times. So here I have an example where in 2012 Obama became president of the US. His fundraising platform in 2011 increased page speed by 60% and raised an additional $34 million for his campaign. So this is a classic example of return on performance investment. When they invested in the good performance of their website, it resulted in a good fundraising in their campaign.
That's a really great figure, $34 million.
Yeah. So in the second example, Intuit cut load time on its website in half and saw an increase of 14% in conversions. GQ, which is a popular online fashion magazine, decreased its average load time from 7 seconds to 2 seconds and saw an 83% increase in traffic. This must have resulted in a good ad revenue also.
Yes, I wonder what would happen or how much of an increase in traffic our Indian news websites would get if they, gave a little importance to performance. Have you browsed the news website, Nitish, especially Times of India?
Yeah, but we face a lot of slowness in there, and there are lots of ads, and it is not designed properly to be performant enough.
Yeah, I remember there was a person in my first company, right? A person gave a demo of VoiceLow, the popular front end performance measurement tool by Yahoo. So the example he took to show bad performance was Times of India. So that is how bad any of the Indian news websites are, from the performance point of view.
Right.
So those are really cool numbers, Nitesh. So as you said, performance testing also helps us determine how your application will scale. It can help you answer the question if more users or user load or traffic can be supported with the same infrastructure. This is especially crucial during sale times. A website that cannot scale under load can lead to lost revenue and reputation. This has happened with most of our e-commerce sites many times. Do you remember the early Flipkart Big Billion days? They would constantly go down under uh, load, and
Right.
people would be frustrated. People would post on Facebook, people would post on Twitter. Sometimes people would call it flop card. All those things happen. So this is where you lose your reputation.
Right. So some companies have still able to do that very effectively. Like they have controlled and they have resolved their issues quickly to not get affected by such kind of slowness or downtimes.
Exactly.
So the third aspect that we want to talk about is improved stability. There are sometimes when the stress on the application is much more than the other times. We also see that times there are higher user load or traffic on the application. This can definitely result in downtime or crashes even. And we also know that how costly a downtime is in terms of companies' revenues as well as profits.
Exactly.
So, taking a leaf from the previous example, Obama's campaign had many online fundraising events where suddenly the number of website visitors would surge. Due to better performance and stability of the system, he successfully avoided missing out on large donations.
Yeah.
So, as you can see, performance testing should be a major priority before releasing our softwares, and it should be implemented early in the development so as to catch bugs earlier and fix them to increase user satisfaction and revenues down the line.
So Nitish, what do you think is happening in the industry right now? Are people doing enough performance testing, or are they doing it at the right time? Uh, do people get enough time to run performance tests and fix performance issues?
Mrinal, there are few companies who are doing excellent work on performance testing and engineering. But if we see the larger picture, there are many organizations who are not serious about performance testing, and they are also not doing it properly. Like there are few organizations I've seen only doing it for the namesake, just one day or few hours, in fact, before release of their product, or giving or delivering it to their clients.
Yeah, so there'll be a project manager. He'll be in a hurry to finish all that is there on his checklist, all the kinds of testing that he has to finish before the project is delivered, and he's behind performance engineers who, finish scripting in one day, run tests in half a day, and send out the results in the rest of the half day.
Hmm.
So
Right.
I've seen. I mean, for, to begin with, most software projects are already late, and by the time it comes to performance test team, especially in waterfall model of software development, there is very little time left for performance team to do anything really.
Right. As the industry has evolved, they have reduced their development cycle window. Like earlier, if they used to do it in 6 months, they started doing it in 4 months. They have reduced it now to like 2 months.
Yeah,
So in 2 months, if you are developing, doing your QA, and if you want to plan performance, that's not going to happen if you do in the traditional way. Like how the companies have been doing since past 10 years, they are doing it the same way right now also.
yeah,
Not a bit has changed in their process.
yes. So that leads to uh, performance bugs creeping into production, and someday some huge performance issue will creep up. Everyone will be called late at night, maybe early in the morning around 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and people start solving performance issues. So,
At that time they would ask that why wasn't it tested?
why wasn't this tested?
Right.
That's a standard question nowadays. Why wasn't this performance tested?
Right.
So,
So as we have talked earlier regarding the need of performance testing, it should be up on priority, and it definitely improves the performance, not only just on paper. It actually results in your revenue generation, your user increase, traffic increase, and also their conversions.
Nitesh, do you think performance teams can be proactive in approaching early performance testing? Like, do you think it would be possible to do it that way? Because anyway, the project managers or whoever is concerned, right? They will not. They will only be concerned about delivering the project as a whole. Do you think performance teams have a scope wherein they can go in early, say during the development or during the QA phase, and say we will start performance testing or maybe even the test scripting during this time, so that it will be easier for us to test and give you the results later or much earlier than the production release? Do you think there is a scope for that anywhere?
Right, Murnal. I think it needs organizational change. Like you can't do it in traditional manner. You have to give power to the performance team and their managers, directors, their leaders basically,
Yeah.
and let them evolve in that process.
Yes. So I mean, you get you get introduced to the project very late into the process. That is where the problem starts, right?
Right.
A performance engineer has been with the development team, the QA team, understanding how the application is built, how the request flows. So he'll be in a better position to deliver faster and predict or find out performance bugs. So that way, I think performance teams can contribute a little bit, even though there is no organizational support or you know restructuring of the organization to support performance. So unless, as you said, unless there's a drastic change in how uh, or when the performance team is involved, you can't expect much to come out of performance testing, right?
Right. Totally agreed. Yeah.
So Nitish, we are almost at the end of this episode, which means it's time for our new section, What the Crash. Let's hear about the websites that crashed in the last 2 weeks.
Today I have two instances of website crashes. First one is many major websites and services were unreachable for a period on 17th July due to issues at Cloudflare DNS service. The issue lasted for about 25 minutes. It was attributed to a bad router in Atlanta.
I saw quite a few posts about this issue on LinkedIn actually. There's a company called Catchpoint. They have monitoring for DNS servers all over the world. So they were able to detect this issue and alerted many people. So they are good doing good work in DNS monitoring.
Right.
You can actually follow many of their employees on LinkedIn. Nitish. They put out a lot of beautiful graphs on LinkedIn related to service disruptions.
That should be informative.
Yeah.
Okay, in the second website crash, One Direction, which is a very famous band, they announced that they will be releasing a new interactive website on the occasion of their 10th anniversary. In anticipation of finding the new link, fans swarmed their original website and crashed it.
Wow. Another classic case of no communication between the IT and marketing department.
Right. So
Ah,
that brings us to the end of episode 3. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. Please subscribe and share with your friends and colleagues. And stay safe.
you can reach out to us for feedback and comments on Twitter at @whattheperf. Bye for now. Catch you in the next one.